Hello guys, welcome to SimUK. I've got a really good game to tell you about today. It's called Football Tactics and Glory. Now it's not often I can say this about a game, but this game is unique, it's innovative, and it's a deeply rewarding turn-based football game. How does that work, you might ask me? Well, that's going to take some explaining, but trust me when I tell you, this game is absolutely brilliant. So for onlookers looking in, on the surface this game probably appears to be rather shallow, pretty limited, and really not much cop. The truth couldn't really be further from that knee-jerk assessment. FTG, as I'll call it, is a complex, challenging football management title, which incorporates multi-layered football club business management, tactical and complex turn-based in-game football matches, multiplayer, face editor, team modding, Twitch integration, and much more. This really is the real deal, and it's never been done like this before. A turn-based football game just doesn't seem to make sense. But I tell you what, this is so good. With the World Cup coming up, this game is going to go viral. It's got so much replayability and it's so nicely put together. This really is the thinking man's football title, yet done in a very simple way. I could easily see it becoming a board game. And that's not to say that it can only be a board game, it's got so much more going for it than just that. So let me tell you a little bit about the game. It's developed and published by a company called Creoteam, and I believe this is just a one-man band from, I believe, Poland, don't quote me on that. The game came out on the 1st of June 2018, and it's on sale at the moment for £11.39 on Steam. Normal price is going to be $15.49. Now, you might be able to find it cheaper elsewhere. Let's be honest, Steam like to double the price of things here and there. I have seen it for as little as, say, £10, which I think is a very good deal. At $15.49, you might be pushing the boundaries, but to be fair, this game sounds as though it's going to get a lot more development pushed towards it, and that can only be a good thing. So there is a backstory to the game. You start off as a successful footballer in a rather important cup match. An injury ruins your chances forever, and you end up being a manager instead. An old fan of yours hooks up, and with you they create a team in the lower leagues, and away you go. You will effectively need to manage everything: player contracts, training, tactics, and of course transfers. There is a youth team, if you pay to develop the stadium to support it. There's scouting, again fully upgradable. Challenges, marketing, sponsorship, increased ground seating capacity, cups, leagues, promotion and relegation, challenges and boosts. Not to mention player retirement and injuries, and exhaustion of course. Special skills and combos, the list literally goes on. This game has so much depth, but you don't necessarily see it straight from the start. And I would say you certainly don't see it just looking in. There are a few little niggles that I have in some areas that I might like to see adjusted, or perhaps we just need to have more control over the way in which the game works. Part of the issues around this game are based on language. The tutorials are in-depth, but they're also quite limited. They don't go into enough detail. Part of the problem again is that they're very wordy, and it all takes a little while to sink in, despite the theory or the logic behind it being relatively basic. There are so many layers of interrelated statistic-based combinations which ultimately affect the likelihood of success for any given move. Even the most knowledgeable of managers, however, won't be safe, because there's also a randomly selected score-based system which results in a top trump style winner-takes-all kind of situation. Incidentally, that is why I think it could work well as a board game, because rolling of dice could give you the same similar kind of result, I guess. As you start to unravel the game, you'll see that each player has their own attributes, limitations and skill sets. Genuine tactics come into play with this game once you start to understand the way in which things work. And nothing is really quite as simple as it sounds. For example, crossing the ball. It took me nearly an entire season to figure out how crossing worked. This was partly due to the tutorial limitations that I spoke about earlier. There are certain positions on the wing where crosses can be made. Equally, your strikers need to be correctly positioned in order to run in and head the ball into the goal, so they need to be just outside of the box. Crosses actually require you to aim past the 18-yard area, and even when your chances look good, this doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, but when you get it right, it can be deadly effective. One of the best features about this game, and it's a bit of an odd one, but when you see it, hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying. It's the really simple, vibrant, yet engaging UI. I like how you have a room where you can view your cups. I like the way that there's a team photo which updates each season as your team evolves and changes. There is a complex face generator, and the teams and leagues are all fully customizable, allowing these currently non-licensed teams to become effectively licensed. It is unlike anything else. Yes, it is abstract, and no, it's not as detailed as Football Manager, but it reeks of quality and attention to detail. For example, there are weather conditions, which will either negatively or positively affect each player individually. There are rivalries, momentary flashes of brilliance, and many, many other combinations of things which will change the outcome of a game. The animated players in winter will wear an extra layer of clothing. That's a nice touch. During the 9 hours or so that I put into this game, let me just say before I go on actually, that I intended to give this game an hour to 3 hours of basically checking it over, getting a feel for the game, and then providing you with a review, a brief review on how good this game was. 9.5 hours later, I started to understand the game, and now, in my second season, I realised that I know what I'm doing now. Everything seems to make more sense now, and the game is even better now than it was when it started. Let me just tell you a little story about my first season. I purchased a very cheap player called Rundle. Turns out he could be world-class quality. And it's that good. You can actually buy and grow and evolve players' skill sets and turn them into world beaters. I did mention briefly there are some things I would like to change. So let me just clarify this. There are incidents where a player will run past a ball, and I think you should be able to pick that ball up. It makes no sense that you would run over the ball and keep running. That's just ridiculous. I think that needs to be re-evaluated, quite possibly. Also, there are times where you cannot run to the sideline. Instead, the game will kick the ball out of play. Now, I'm sure there are circumstances where that is a good idea, but quite honestly, I think this is a strange decision and a terrible limitation for the game, and I think it ought to be tweaked. I also wonder whether the game would benefit if there were more moves per turn, maybe 5, because at the moment it's limited to 3, unless you play a skill move, in which case you can arguably work it up to 5. I think the pitch could benefit from being a little bit bigger, and I'd like to see more controls or more adjustments available to us so that we can change things like this to our own liking. Maybe you should get the ability to move some players in a defensive way too. I don't know. I'm fairly new to the game, and this is totally unique. It doesn't exist, so I'm still learning the intricacies of this game. On a side note, referring directly to the gameplay itself, I felt as though the mouse clicks were not necessarily registering properly, or there was a delay, a lag, and this caused me a few problems at the beginning. Sometimes I also felt robbed, as though I was getting less than the 3 turns I should be getting. Now, I can't confirm or deny whether this is the case, because when you get wrapped up in the game, and it's very strange, you might think a turn-based football game is not going to be high intensity, high tempo, high passion, but actually it really encapsulates all those feelings very, very well. I don't really understand how it manages to do it, but it does. It's a very, very clever game. It's very good indeed. but I think sometimes I didn't get the full 3 turns. Now, it might be because there's a rule that I don't understand, or something that happened that I didn't quite follow. But as I say, because I was so wrapped up in the intensity of the game itself, I wasn't paying that close attention to how many turns I'd had, how many turns I had left, and any indication that something had changed to remove one of those moves. So I remain open on that point. It's just, I felt like perhaps that happened occasionally. Equally, on occasions when I played a skill move, I felt like I didn't get that bonus turn. And once again, I refer back to the fact that it's quite complex, this game, and I may just have misunderstood or misplayed a skill move. One of the limitations to the game is that you cannot play a skill move on the first kickoff of the game. Now, maybe that's because the developer realised it just makes the game too easy, and you can just score, you can score 6-7 goals in a game quite often if you're much better than the opponent and luck is in your favour. So maybe that's why that limitation is applied. But if that isn't the reason why the limitation is applied, then I think it's a terrible thing, because without the skills, this game is quite tricky. Overall though, I have to say that this game is just exceptional. It is totally unique and it's immeasurably addictive. I highly recommend it. 100% A**. Brilliant game. Thanks for watching. Take care. Till next time. Goodbye for now.